Elias Ward had always been a man of courage, though not the kind that relied on sight. He was born completely blind, yet he had earned a reputation across human colonies as a fearless captain, strategist, and a problem solver. Where others saw obstacles, Elias saw possibilities. And now, the impossible had come to him in the form of an official summons. He was to marry an alien princess. The message had arrived at his quarters like a storm in a bottle. The holographic communicator had flickered to life, displaying the glowing emblem of the Galactic Council, the supreme body that regulated interplanetary relations. "Captain Ward," said a voice that was both commanding and warm, "your presence is requested for a matter of great importance. You are to enter into a union with Princess Lyra of Zytheria. This marriage will seal a peace treaty that is crucial to the stability of the sector." Elias had paused. Marriage, princess, alien, peace treaty. All at once, the words tumbled through his mind like an alien language in human tones. He had fought wars, faced pirates, navigated asteroid fields, and even led humans against alien aggressors, but nothing like this. "Am I to understand," he had asked, his voice calm, though his heart raced, "that I am being asked to marry someone I have never seen?" "That is correct," the council had replied. "Your courage, your intellect, and your reputation as a human of honor make you the perfect candidate. Princess Lyra is of the Zytherian royal line. She is highly intelligent and will expect a partner who can match her strength in ways beyond sight." Elias had considered refusing. He had always lived on his own terms. But he understood duty, and he understood honor. If this union could bring peace between humans and Zytherians, then he could not refuse. Now, as he stood aboard the sleek human cruiser that would carry him to Zytheria, he tried to calm his mind. The hum of the engines vibrated beneath his feet. He could hear the distant stars, or perhaps it was just the low-frequency vibrations of the ship itself. He felt a strange excitement mingled with unease. A marriage he could not see, to a princess he had never met. On a world that was entirely alien, the crew treated him with extraordinary care. They spoke to him constantly, describing everything in meticulous detail: the curvature of the walls, the subtle glow of lights along the corridors, the soft vibration of the floor beneath their steps. Their words painted a picture of a ship so advanced it almost seemed alive. "Captain Ward," said Lieutenant Mira, his second in command, and one of the few humans he fully trusted, "the Zytherians are known for their intricate ceremonies. You will need to pay attention to their customs. They are not like humans. You cannot rely on sight here." "I understand," Elias said, "and I am ready to learn." Mira nodded. She knew he would be. He had always been ready, always alert, always brave, as the ship traveled through the void. Elias reflected on what he knew of Princess Lyra. Official records described her as a brilliant strategist and a keen negotiator. She was said to possess a unique energy, almost impossible for humans to fully perceive. And her presence was rumored to command both respect and curiosity among her people, what no record could describe. However, was what she looked like, or how she would react to a human, what no human record could convey was the feeling that pulsed through Elias whenever he imagined her, an unfamiliar intensity. Like electricity in the air, upon arrival at Zytheria, Elias was met with the usual formalities. The palace was enormous, built of crystalline structures that reflected light in strange and dazzling patterns. He could not see them, of course, but the vibrations they sent through the floor and walls were enough to make him aware of their grandeur. "Welcome, Captain Ward," said a Zytherian aide, her voice musical, almost ethereal. "We have been expecting you. The princess is ready for your ceremony." Elias nodded, guiding himself with the aid of his staff. Each step was deliberate, each motion practiced. Though he could not see, he sensed the weight of history pressing upon him. This was not just a marriage. It was a symbol of alliance. Bridge between species, and he was at its center. The ceremony room was vast. He could feel the energy of hundreds of individuals gathered in anticipation, their vibrations in the floor like a silent symphony. Elias could sense eyes on him, whispers brushing past him like currents in the air. The Zetherians were not hostile, but they were curious curiosity that felt almost like a living presence. And then he heard her. Princess Lyra. Her voice entered the room as if it belonged not to a single individual, but to the entire space itself. It was melodic, precise, and carried with it a subtle weight of authority. "Captain Ward," she said, "you honor our people. With your presence, I hope we may learn to understand each other." Elias felt a ripple pass through him, a shiver of recognition and surprise. Her voice was unlike any human voice he had ever heard Dalian, yet warm and inviting. It carried nuances that spoke of intelligence, strength, and a quiet curiosity about him in return. "I will do my best, Princess Lyra," Elias replied, "and I hope to understand you as well." The ceremony began. Though he could not see, Elias could follow through sound, rhythm, and touch. He felt the placement of objects on his hands, the brushing of ceremonial robes against his arms, the soft vibration of the floor beneath his feet that indicated where he should step. The Zetherian customs were intricate. Each motion, each word, each pause was calculated, and Elias absorbed them as best he could. He relied on Mira to guide him when the motions became too elaborate, but he also relied on his own instincts. He trusted his other senses more than sight, and those senses were proving invaluable. Throughout the ceremony, he sensed Lyra's presence not only through her voice, but through an energy that emanated from her. It was subtle but undeniable, a constant, gentle current that seemed to ripple through the space around him. He could not see her, yet he felt her as one might feel a heartbeat from across a room, after what felt like hours. The ceremony concluded. Elias was led to the private chambers prepared for the newlyweds. The room was vast, filled with alien light that he could not perceive but could sense in the air around him. Soft vibrations under his feet suggested opulence and careful design. Lyra entered shortly after, and for a moment Elias hesitated. He had not seen her, and yet he felt a presence that was almost overwhelming. Her energy was intense, yet not frightening, more like a force of nature tempered by grace and intelligence. "Captain Ward," she said softly, "our people expect us to bond tonight. But I want you to know what you will experience may be different from anything you have imagined." Elias nodded, unsure what she meant, but ready for anything. His entire life had been about facing the unknown. Blindness had never stopped him before. Why should it start now? Elia extended her hand, and Elias took it. The moment their hands met, he felt a surge of sensation, unlike any he had ever experienced. It was not merely touch. It was as if he could sense her emotions, her thoughts, and even glimpses of her past. He stumbled back slightly, overwhelmed, but Lyra's calm voice steadied him. "Do not be afraid," she said. "What you feel is not a threat. It is who I am, and now in some small way, you may begin to know me." Elias exhaled slowly. He realized that his entire life he had relied on the senses others took for granted, and now he was learning a new kind of perception, one that would allow him to understand Lyra in ways most humans never could. The night stretched on. Not in the way humans might imagine a wedding night, but as an exchange of trust and understanding. Elias learned to navigate the alien energy of the room, to feel Lyra's presence as one might feel a current in a river. Each sensation was new, startling, and yet profoundly beautiful. By the time the first light of Zytheria's twin moons touched the palace, Elias understood something remarkable. This marriage, though born of politics, had the potential to be extraordinary. He could not see Princess Lyra, but he could feel her, know her, and perhaps in time love her, and he realized with a sense of awe that his blindness was not a limitation, it was a gateway. Through it, he could experience things that others could never, and he could form a bond that would defy expectations, species, and even the stars themselves. Elias lay back that night, letting the vibrations of the palace settle around him, listening to Lyra's soft, steady presence beside him. For the first time in his life, he felt entirely at home. Even in a world he could not see, The galaxy outside was vast, filled with mysteries, dangers, and wonders. And Elias Ward, blind but unbroken, had just stepped into one of the most extraordinary journeys of his life. The morning on Zetheria dawned slowly, spilling light across crystalline towers that Elias could not see, but could sense through the vibrations of the palace. The air was thick with energy, a mixture of alien flora and the faint hum of technology that permeated every corner of the royal grounds. Though he could not perceive the colors, the palace seemed alive to him in a way no human architecture ever had. Princess Lyra was already awake when Elias rose. Her presence was palpable, not just through sound, but as an undercurrent of subtle energy that wrapped around him like a second skin. He had begun to understand that this energy was not merely a force, it was a language, a way of communicating emotions and intentions without words. "Good morning, Captain Ward," she said, her voice softer than the day before. It carried no command now, only warmth. "I hope your rest was peaceful." Elias smiled, though she could not see it. "As peaceful as it can be in a palace where everything vibrates with life," he replied. "And with you here, I could sleep through anything." There was a pause, almost as if she were measuring his sincerity. Then came a small, melodic laugh that he had not heard before. It was light, human even, though tinted with an alien cadence. It made him feel strangely at ease, as if he were no longer a guest, but someone who belonged. "You are learning quickly," Lyra said. "Most humans would be overwhelmed by the palace alone. Yet you navigate it as if it were familiar." "Have no choice but to adapt," Elias said. "Blindness has taught me to trust senses others ignore. Perhaps it will serve me well here too." Lyra's energy seemed to brighten at that, a sensation he had begun to associate with approval or pleasure. Elias was starting to sense her emotions, almost instinctively, reading her mood as clearly as a human might read a smile or a frown. Breakfast was a strange affair. Elias could not see the intricate dishes laid before him, but he could taste flavors that danced on his tongue in ways he had never experienced. Sweetness and bitterness intertwined, with textures that shifted between solid and liquid in impossible ways. Each bite was a lesson in alien cuisine, and Lyra guided him through it patiently, describing textures and flavors with precision. "You must learn to trust your palate as much as your other senses," she advised. "Food on Zetheria carries meaning. Each taste is a story, a memory, a part of our history." Elias listened intently, savoring every sensation. He realized that this world demanded engagement of every sense, not just sight. And perhaps he thought this was an advantage. Humans had always relied heavily on vision, yet here he could perceive things others could not. After breakfast, Lyra led him on a tour of the palace. Rather, she guided him through its corridors, describing everything in detail. He learned to feel the subtle differences in floor vibrations, the slight shifts in temperature near different rooms, and even the resonance of walls that reflected energy differently depending on their purpose. "You perceive more than most," Lyra said as they paused in a hall lined with crystalline pillars. "Humans underestimate what a blind person can sense. You hear, you feel, you understand in ways many of your kind cannot." "I suppose I have always lived that way," Elias admitted. "Perhaps that is why I was chosen." Lyra tilted her head slightly, and though he could not see it, he could sense a ripple of curiosity emanate from her. "Perhaps," she murmured, "or perhaps it is simply fate." As the day progressed, Elias began to notice subtle differences in Lyra herself. Her energy shifted when she spoke. Her vibrations in the floor changed slightly as she moved, and her voice carried undertones that seemed almost like thoughts communicated without words. He could feel her moods, her intentions, even fragments of her memories when she allowed it by evening. The palace had emptied of most courtiers, leaving only the couple and a few attendants to oversee protocol. It was time for the private ceremony. That would mark the official start of their union. Elias felt a nervous excitement building in his chest. He had survived countless dangers, but nothing had prepared him for this. Lyra led him to a private chamber designed for the occasion. The room was vast, yet somehow intimate, filled with soft energy pulses that Elias could feel against his skin. He could not see the glowing structures or the intricate designs, but he sensed their presence like one senses wind or gravity. "You will see me now," Lyra said softly. "Not with your eyes, but in the way I can show you." Elias did not understand at first. "Show me. How do you mean?" She extended her hands toward him, and a warmth radiated outward, surrounding him in a cocoon of energy. It was as if the room itself shifted, and suddenly he perceived shapes, colors, forms not through eyes, but through a sensation of vision projected into his mind. He gasped. Though he could not see with his eyes, he now saw Lyra. Her form was beautiful, elegant beyond imagination, yet somehow human in subtle ways that made her approachable. Her skin shimmered faintly, her eyes, though alien, radiated emotion. And her movements were fluid, precise, almost like a dance. Elias was stunned. The sensation was overwhelming, but not frightening. He reached out instinctively, and their hands met once again. This time, he could perceive more than form. He could feel her thoughts brushing against his, gentle and cautious, yet curious. "You can perceive me this way?" she asked, a hint of surprise in her tone. I think so," Elias said, his voice trembling slightly. "It's unlike anything I have ever experienced. I can feel you and understand something of you." Lyra's energy flowed around him, almost like a river wrapping a boat in warmth. "Then you must understand that this connection is rare. Even among my people, it is uncommon to bond so completely with another being. Yet I feel that we may learn much from one another." The rest of the night passed in a blur of sensations, discoveries, and shared experiences. Elias learned that Lyra could project fragments of memory, allowing him to feel moments from her past, her childhood on Zetheria, her training in diplomacy and strategy, the emotions she had carried since birth. He was shocked not only by the depth of her experiences, but by the trust she placed in him, a blind human, to witness them. He shared his own memories, though they were fewer, shaped by hardship, courage, and determination. He sensed that Lyra listened not just to his words, but to the emotions behind them, the decisions he had made, the sacrifices he had endured. It was an exchange beyond language, beyond the physical, beyond what either of them had imagined possible. Through the night, Elias realized something profound. His blindness had allowed him to perceive Lyra in ways others could not. He did not see her with eyes, yet he saw her essence, her thoughts, her courage, and her heart. And in turn, she saw him, not as a blind human, but as a partner, capable of understanding, empathy, and strength. As dawn approached, the energy in the room softened. Elias felt a deep calm settle over him, a sensation of completeness he had never known. Lyra's presence was steady now, not overwhelming, but comforting. "You have exceeded my expectations," she said quietly, though he sensed a smile in her tone. "Most humans would be terrified by this experience. You embraced it." Elias laughed softly, a sound of genuine amusement and relief. "I suppose I have no choice but to embrace what is in front of me. Life has never been easy, and yet it always offers a way forward. Tonight I see that very clearly." Lyra's energy pulsed lightly, almost like a heartbeat. "Then perhaps our union will not only bring peace between our peoples, but also teach us something new about each. Learn about ourselves." Elias nodded, feeling the truth of her words. He'd always believed in human resilience, in courage and adaptability. Now he understood that those traits could extend far beyond human borders, bridging galaxies and species in ways he had never imagined. The first light of Zetheria's twin moons filtered through the energy of the room, and Elias lay back, absorbing every sensation. Though he could not see the world with eyes, he had never felt more aware. He could sense the palace, the universe, and most importantly, Princess Lyra herself. As sleep approached, he realized that this was only the beginning. The marriage was more than a political alliance. It was a journey into understanding, into partnership, and into the boundless potential of human courage meeting alien sophistication. For the first time, Elias Ward felt that the universe was not something to fear, but something to explore, might with sight, but with heart, mind, and unwavering determination. And somewhere in the quiet pulse of the palace, he knew that Princess Lyra felt the same. The night had been a revelation, and the future unknown, alien, and full of promise stretched out before them like an open sky, waiting for humans and Zetherians alike to step forward together. Days passed on Zetheria, and the palace had settled into a rhythm that Elias was only beginning to understand. The grandeur of the crystalline halls no longer felt entirely foreign. He could navigate the corridors by the subtle vibrations in the floors and walls, and the energy pulses in the air guided him like a living map. Yet despite the familiarity, every moment brought new discoveries, both about the world and about Princess Lyra herself. Lyra had taken it upon herself to teach Elias more about Zetherian customs, history, and politics. Her methods were unique. She projected fragments of memories, letting him experience events from her perspective. He had seen ceremonial gatherings, diplomatic meetings, and even moments of personal triumph and loss. For Elias, it was astonishing. He had never felt so intimately connected to another being, alien or human. Yet the palace was not merely a sanctuary. Whispers of discontent among some Zetherian factions reached them, even in these early days. Courtiers were skeptical of a human as a royal consort. Elias could feel it through subtle energy shifts in the palatial tension in the corridors, a cold ripple when certain individuals passed, and the muted whispers that seemed almost like vibrations in the air. Lyra sensed it too. One evening, as they practiced a traditional Zetherian meditation together, she spoke softly. "There are those among my people who do not trust you, not because of who you are, but because of what you represent. A human at my side is unusual, and some cannot understand it." Elias let the words sink in. "I expected resistance," he said, "but it does not frighten me. Humans have faced prejudice before. We have survived impossible odds. I believe we can survive this too." Lyra's energy seemed to pulse with approval. "You speak with courage, Elias. It is one of the reasons I chose to reveal myself fully to you. Most humans would be too frightened to embrace what we experienced together. You did not flinch. That is rare." The days turned into weeks, and Elias grew more confident. He began to participate in council meetings, navigating discussions with dignitaries and advisors. While the others relied on sight to read gestures and subtle expressions, Elias relied on energy shifts in tone. His ability to sense emotion and intent gave him an advantage. He detected subtle deceptions and half-truths that others might have missed. It was during one such council meeting that a subtle plot began to reveal itself. A group of Zetherian nobles, dissatisfied with the union, had quietly formed a faction. To undermine both Elias and Lyra, they whispered to each other, exchanged glances, and positioned allies in strategic places. Elias could feel it, though the humans around him were unaware. After the meeting, he shared his observations with Lyra. "There are those who wish to exploit our bond," he said. "They are subtle, careful, but I can sense their intentions. They are planning something that could threaten the peace treaty." Lyra did not seem surprised. "I have suspected as much. Your perception is remarkable. Most of my people would not notice the undercurrents until it was too late. You see what others cannot. That is the human way, perhaps." Elias smiled. "Then we must act before their plans unfold. I do not intend to be a pawn in this game." The next few days were filled with strategy and preparation. Elias worked closely with Lyra and her advisors, using his unique perception to identify weak points in the faction's plans. He sensed which courtiers could be persuaded, which messages carried hidden meanings, in the safest routes through the palace in case of emergency. His mind, trained through years of relying on senses, beyond sight, became an invaluable tool. One evening, while walking through the palace gardens, Lyra spoke of the bond they shared. "Elias, the way you perceive MIT is more than just adaptation. You understand me in ways my own people cannot, you see, beyond form and expectation, and that is powerful." Elias took her hand, feeling the familiar warmth of her energy. "It is not power I seek, Princess. It is understanding. And in return, I feel that I am learning something about myself as well. Lyra's energy pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. You are learning what many Zetherians will never know, that the human heart, though seemingly fragile, can be stronger than the most advanced mind or the most intricate technology. That courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. Their conversation was interrupted by a subtle disturbance. In the palace energy a ripple that Elias immediately recognized as intrusion. He stiffened, alert. Lyra's pulse mirrored his tension, confirming his perception. "Someone is here," he said. "Not an ordinary visitor. They're trying to move without drawing attention, but I can sense them." Lyra's eyes, which he could not see, but could feel in their energy signature, narrowed. "Show me." Elias closed his eyes, focusing on the vibrations and energy around him. He could sense 3 distinct presences, moving cautiously, attempting to blend with the courtiers. He whispered their locations to Lyra, one near the East Wing corridor, another by the grand dining hall, the third approaching from the main gallery. Lyra nodded and called her guards. Intercept them, but with care. They must not harm the treaty or alarm the public. Elias led the guards silently, guiding them through the palace with precise directions. Each step he took, each instruction he gave was based entirely on perception beyond sight. By the time they reached the intruders, the 3 culprits were cornered without having realized they were discovered. "They underestimated the human," Lyra said, her energy pulsing with amusement. "And yet it is not only human courage that saved the day. It is your perception, your adaptability. You see what others cannot." Elias shrugged, a small laugh escaping him. "Perhaps it is just training. Years of living without sight can sharpen other senses to an almost preternatural degree." The intruders were questioned and revealed to be part of the faction attempting to destabilize the treaty. They had planned to disrupt a diplomatic ceremony that would officially mark the human-Cytherian alliance as permanent. Thanks to Elias, the plot was foiled before it could begin. The event left the palace buzzing with whispers. Though few understood the true nature of what had happened, Elias, despite being blind, had become a hero among the Zetherians. It's not through brute strength, but through intelligence, courage, and an uncanny ability to perceive threats invisible to others. That night, as he sat in the royal chambers with Lyra, he reflected on how much his life had changed. He had arrived as a stranger, an outsider. Now he was a partner in something far greater than himself. Lyra approached him, her energy gentle and reassuring. "Elias, I must confess something. All humans could have succeeded as you have. You have embraced what is strange, what is unfamiliar, and turned it into strength. You are remarkable." He felt a warmth at her words, more profound than any praise he had received in his life. "I have only done what I must. And I have learned that strength comes in many forms. Tonight, we saw that courage and perception can overcome even the most carefully hidden threats." Lyra's energy pulsed in agreement, and for a long moment they sat in silence, sharing a bond that words could not capture. Elias realized that the challenges he faced were not over. The faction might still pose threats, and the politics of the palace were as complex as the crystal structures that surrounded them. But he also understood that he had a partner unlike any other, one who valued him not for what he lacked, but for what he could contribute. Over the following days, Elias continued to navigate the palace, always alert, always perceiving. He discovered hidden passages, secret communications, and subtle energy shifts that hinted at the thoughts and intentions of those around him. Each discovery reinforced his belief that humans had strengths that extended beyond what others could see. Lyra, too, grew closer to him. She shared more of her abilities, teaching him to sense energy not just from individuals, but from spaces themselves. 2. Feel the history and purpose of objects, and to interpret subtle currents that carried information invisible to ordinary perception. Through it all, Elias never lost sight of the bond they shared. Despite the alien nature of the palace, the customs, and the people, he felt that he had found a place where he belonged. His blindness, once considered a limitation, had become a bridged way, to understand Lyra, her people, and himself in ways he never imagined. One evening, as the twin moons of Zytheria rose high in the sky, casting energy pulses through the palace, Elias and Lyra stood together on a balcony that overlooked the city. He could feel the life of the planet beneath his feet, the vibrations of buildings and streets, and the quiet hum of alien technology. "This is incredible," Elias murmured. "I cannot see it, but I feel it. The city, the people, it all seems alive." Lyra's energy wrapped around him gently. "It is alive. And now, so are you, in ways you did not know. You have seen beyond what your eyes can perceive, and that is a rare gift, Elias." He smiled, feeling a deep connection to her and to the world. "Perhaps the galaxy is teaching me that true sight is not with the eyes, but with understanding, courage, and trust." Lyra's pulse quickened slightly, a sign of joy and agreement. "Then we shall continue to learn together, Captain. Whatever challenges come, we face them not as human and alien, but as partners." Elias nodded, feeling the truth of her words resonate through him. He had come to Zytheria blind, uncertain, and wary. Now he stood as a hero, a partner, and someone who had The days following the thwarted plot were tense. Though the immediate danger had passed, Elias could feel undercurrents of unrest weaving through the palace like invisible threads. He sensed the subtle shift in energy when courtiers whispered behind closed doors, the nervous hesitation of attendants passing him in the halls, and the faint vibrations that hinted at secret meetings. Not all the Zytherians were pleased with the union, and some were determined to challenge it in any way they could. Elias and Lyra met often to discuss the palace's dynamics, their sessions a blend of strategy, perception training, and mutual understanding, though the marriage had begun as a political alliance. It had evolved into something far more complex, a partnership, where human intuition and courage complemented alien sophistication and foresight. One evening, Lyra took him to a secluded wing of the palace, an area few humans had ever entered. "There are truths here," she explained, "that many would prefer remain hidden. Knowledge is power, Elias, and we must be aware of all currents if we are to protect our union and the treaty." As they moved through the corridors, Elias relied entirely on his other senses. He felt subtle vibrations beneath his feet, detected air currents shifting around corners, and listened for sounds too faint for ordinary humans to perceive. Lyra's presence beside him was a constant anchor, her energy a guide and a reassurance. They entered a chamber that thrummed with quiet power. Crystalline walls reflected energy pulses and patterns that Elias could not see, but he felt them resonate through his body. The air itself seemed to hum, alive with history and secrets. Lyra's voice was calm, yet firm. "This is the Hall of Records. It contains knowledge that could change the course of Zytherian politics if it falls into the wrong hands." Elias's pulse quickened. "Then we must be careful. Who else could access this place?" Lyra's energy stiffened, a sign of concern. "A faction of dissenters. They seek to manipulate events to remove you and me from power, to destabilize the treaty. They would kill the opportunity for peace if they could." Elias's mind worked quickly. Though he could not see the documents or holographic records, he could sense their energy, the intention behind their arrangement, and even the weight of information encoded within them. With Lyra's guidance, he began to absorb knowledge, as if feeling the structure of thought itself. Hours passed in study and strategy. They discovered plans, hidden alliances, and coded messages intended to disrupt diplomatic efforts. Elias could feel the motives behind each scheme, the greed, fear, and ambition of those who plotted against them. Using his unique perception, he began to map out countermeasures. The following day brought an urgent summons. A courier had delivered a message that certain nobles planned to stage public disruption during an upcoming celebration of human Zytherian unity. The ceremony would take place in the central plaza, attended by diplomats from multiple planets, making it the perfect stage for those wishing to sow chaos. Elias did not hesitate. He studied the palace layout through vibrations, calculated entry points, escape routes, and positions where the faction could strike. Lyra listened intently, her energy confirming the accuracy of his assessments. "You think like a strategist," she said. "Your human mind turns perception into action with precision. I am impressed." On the day of the ceremony, the palace was alive with activity. Elias could feel the energy of the crowd, the excitement and anticipation of dignitaries, and the subtle anxiety of those plotting in secret. Though he could not see the spectacle, every step, every motion, every pulse of energy told him exactly what was happening. As the procession began, Elias guided the palace guards discreetly. He detected the movements of the conspirators long before they acted, directing guards to intercept them quietly, avoiding panic among the attendees. Each subtle instruction he gave was precise and deliberate. When the disruption finally came, a small explosion of energy in one corner of the Plaziolus's preparation minimized its impact. Guards were already in position, and the crowd remained largely unaware of the danger. The faction members were swiftly subdued, unable to complete their plan. Lyra, standing beside him, radiated relief and admiration. "You have done more than I expected," she said softly. "Humans possess a form of courage and strategy that is extraordinary. Your blindness does not limit you. It enhances your perception in ways others could never achieve." Elias felt a swell of pride, tempered by humility. "I only did what was necessary. The stakes were high, and we could not allow chaos. I am glad it succeeded." In the days following the ceremony, their bond deepened further. Lyra shared more of her abilities, teaching Elias to sense energy currents in larger areas, detect subtle manipulations in conversation, and even feel the intentions of people before they acted. He became not just her partner, but her equal in navigating both the social and political complexities of Zytheria. Yet despite their successes, Elias' new challenges were far from over. The faction that opposed them was still present, hiding among courtiers, gathering intelligence, and waiting for another opportunity. The marriage, the treaty, and their very lives could be threatened at any moment. One evening, as they prepared for a private council meeting, Lyra spoke quietly. "Elias, I must ask something of you. The challenges we face will not always be straightforward. There will be deception, betrayal, and danger. You must trust yourself and me completely." "I do," Elias said firmly. "I trust my perception, my judgment, and you. Together, we can face anything." She reached for his hand, and he felt her energy pulse in agreement. "Good, because the next challenge approaches faster than you think." The following day, intelligence gathered by the palace suggested a new plot more sophisticated, more dangerous, and aimed not just at them, but at destabilizing human Cytherian relations across the sector. The faction intended to manipulate communications, turning minor misunderstandings into potential conflicts that could erupt into war. Elias analyzed the information carefully. Though he could not see the schematics, he felt the flow of data, the intent behind coded messages, and the vulnerabilities and security measures. He devised a counterplan that relied on both his human ingenuity and Lyra's alien abilities. When the faction acted, attempting to intercept communications and sow confusion, Elias and Lyra were ready. They monitored the flow of energy, predicted the intruders' movements, and coordinated with the palace guards. Every threat was neutralized before it could escalate, leaving the faction frustrated and exposed. Afterward, Lyra turned to him, her voice carrying warmth and admiration. "You have not only protected the palace, but the entire alliance. Humans are remarkable in their adaptability, courage, and ingenuity. I see why the council chose you." Elias smiled, feeling the weight of her praise. "I only act when necessary. But I will admit, understanding Zytheria and working alongside you, it has taught me more than I ever imagined." Their success did not go unnoticed. Other dignitaries and ambassadors began to respect the human captain, recognizing his skill and insight. Even those who had doubted the marriage began to reconsider. Seeing that Elias was not merely a figurehead, but a partner capable of navigating the complexities of Zytherian politics, Yet Elias knew that the work was far from done. Challenges would continue, both political and personal. The faction remained, and new threats could emerge at any moment. But he also knew that he was not facing them alone. Lyra stood beside him, a partner in every sense, and together they had proven that courage, perception, and trust could overcome even the most carefully laid plans. In the quiet moments of the evening, Elias reflected on the journey so far. He had arrived on Zytheria blind, uncertain, and wary. He had faced unfamiliar customs, alien energies, and political intrigue. Yet he had adapted, thrived, and discovered that human strength went beyond physical ability, resided in perception, courage, and the heart. Lyra joined him on the balcony, her presence steady and comforting. The city below vibrated with life, its energy resonating through the palace and into Elias's very being. He could sense the vastness of the world around him, the interplay of countless lives, and the subtle shifts that could shape the future. "You have done more than protect the treaty," Lyra said softly. "You have shown me and my people that humanity possesses qualities beyond imagination. Courage, perception, and wisdom are not limited to sight or technology. You embody them all." Elias felt a deep pride, tempered by humility. "I am only doing what I must. But I am glad to hear that my people and I can be of value to yours." She reached for his hand again, and he felt the gentle pulse of her energy. "You are of more value than you realize, Elias. Together, we can face any challenge, overcome any obstacle, and strengthen the bond between our peoples. The galaxy is vast, but with courage and trust, we can navigate it together." Elias nodded, feeling the truth of her words resonate deep within him. He had arrived on Zytheria as a stranger, blind and uncertain. Now, he was a partner, a strategist, and a protector. He had discovered that human resilience, perception, and courage could shine even in an alien world, bridging gaps that many would have thought insurmountable. As the twin moons of Zytheria rose high in the sky, Elias felt a profound sense of purpose. The challenges ahead would be many, but he was no longer afraid. With Lyra beside him, he could perceive the woe. The tension in the palace had reached a peak. Weeks of intrigue, subterfuge, and careful planning had tested Elias and Lyra in ways neither had anticipated. The faction opposing their union had grown bolder, using both subtle manipulations and overt threats to destabilize human-Cytherian relations. But Elias had learned to see beyond appearances, to perceive intentions and energy where others saw only empty halls and polite smiles. Lyra stood beside him in the council chamber, her energy calm but alert. "Today, we will know who is truly loyal," she said. "The faction has prepared something more dangerous than before. They seek to disrupt not only our union, but the very foundation of the treaty." Elias nodded, his own energy pulsing. "With determination, then we must act. We cannot allow fear or deception to dictate the future. Humans have faced impossible odds before, and we will face them again together." The council meeting began, with dignitaries from multiple planets gathered to observe the discussions. The tension in the room was palpable, though most participants smiled and spoke as if all were normal. Elias, however, could sense the undercurrent of plotting, the subtle shifts in posture, the hidden energy signatures, and the unspoken alliances forming beneath polite conversation as the debate progressed. Elias detected a hidden attempt to manipulate communications. Messages intended for the council were being intercepted and altered, designed to create conflict and confusion. He whispered directions to Lyra, who transmitted subtle energy pulses to their loyal guards, guiding them toward the source of the interference. With precise coordination, they intercepted the faction's agents, preventing the manipulation before it could escalate. The courtiers involved were exposed, their hidden motives revealed, and the assembly remained calm, unaware of the near disaster. Elias felt a surge of satisfaction not from victory alone, but from the ability to protect countless lives through perception, courage, and quick thinking. After the meeting, Lyra led Elias to a balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons of Zytheria cast energy pulses across the crystalline towers, creating patterns he could not see, but could sense in a way that made the world feel alive and responsive. "You have done more than I imagined," Lyra said softly. "Your human mind, your courage, and your perception have prevented chaos and safeguarded the treaty. I see now why the Council chose you. You are not only my partner, Eliazu, are indispensable." Elias felt a warmth spread through him. "I only act because I must, and because I trust you. Together, we are stronger than any opposition." Lyra's energy pulsed in agreement. "And yet, the faction will not stop. Your next move may be even bolder. We must be ready." The very next day, intelligence revealed that the faction planned to take direct action, an assault aimed at destabilizing the palace and kidnapping key figures to force concessions. The palace was on high alert, with guards and loyalists prepared for conflict. Elias, though blind, became the strategist at the center of it all, sensing movements, detecting hidden threats, and guiding the defense with precision no one else could match. When the attack began, it was sudden and chaotic. Energy blasts shattered crystalline walls in one wing, and intruders moved with speed and cunning. Elias directed guards, anticipating the attackers' paths and neutralizing threats. Before they could harm anyone, his perception, trained by years of living without sight, allowed him to navigate the chaos with clarity that others could not hope to match. Lyra was at his side throughout, projecting protective energy and guiding loyalists. Her presence was a beacon, but it was Elias who interpreted the subtle movements, predicted traps, and coordinated counteractions. Together, they turned the tide of the battle, using strategy and perception rather than brute force alone. In the heart of the palace, the faction's leaders attempted to breach the inner sanctum, targeting the Hall of Records and the communication hub. Elias, sensing their intent, intercepted them with a group of elite guards. The confrontation was tense, the air thick with energy pulses that reflected the adversary's intent. "You cannot succeed," Elias said firmly, his voice steady amidst the chaos. "Your plans are known, your intentions are clear. Step back, or face the consequences." The faction leaders sneered but could not hide the uncertainty in their energy signature. Elias had seen through every deception, every hidden motive, and now they faced a human who could perceive beyond sight, beyond trickery, and beyond fear. With coordinated effort, the faction was defeated. Captured and restrained, their plot was dismantled before it could threaten the treaty or the lives of those within the palace. The council and dignitaries witnessing the aftermath began to understand the significance of Elias's abilities, though they had only glimpsed them indirectly. Lyra turned to Elias after the confrontation, her energy vibrating with pride and relief. "You have not only protected me and this palace, but the future of the human-Cytherian alliance. Humans are remarkable, Elias. I see now that our trust in you was well placed." Elias felt a deep humility. "I am only human," he said softly, "but perhaps that is why I can see what others cannot. We adapt, we persevere, and we protect those we care about." In the following days, peace returned to the palace, though the memory of the attack lingered. Elias and Lyra worked together to strengthen security, reinforce alliances, and ensure that the treaty remained unbroken. Their bond, tested through danger and strategy, had grown unshakable, Elias reflected. On how far he had come? He had arrived on Cytheria blind, uncertain, and wary. He had faced alien customs, political intrigue, and life-threatening situations. Yet he had adapted, using human courage, ingenuity, and perception to navigate a world that initially seemed impossible to comprehend. Lyra approached him one evening as they stood together on the balcony. "Elias," she said, her energy soft and steady, "you have proven that humanity possesses qualities beyond imagination. Courage, perception, strategy, all are strengths that can shape worlds. You have shown me that partnership between species is not only possible, but powerful." Elias felt the truth in her words resonate deep within him. "I have learned as much from you as you have from me. Together, we are stronger than any faction or threat, and I believe we can continue to protect this alliance and our people." Lyra's pulse quickened slightly, a sign of joy and agreement. "Then we shall." The galaxy is vast, and challenges will arise, but with courage, trust, and understanding, we can meet them all. As the twin moons of Zetheria rose high in the sky, Elias felt a profound sense of purpose and belonging. Though he could not see the world with eyes, he could perceive it with understanding, intuition, and heart. He had discovered that true strength lay not in physical sight alone, but in the courage to face the unknown, the wisdom to interpret it, and the determination to act when others might falter. Lyra's presence beside him was constant, a source of guidance and partnership. He had come to understand that their union was not just political, it was a meeting of minds, hearts, and perception. Together, they had faced threats that would have overwhelmed others, using strategy, adaptability, and trust to protect their people and their future. Elias realized that human resilience was extraordinary. It's capable of bridging worlds, species, and cultures. His blindness, once seen as a limitation, had become a strength, a way to perceive truths invisible to others, to act decisively, and to protect those who relied on him in the quiet of the palace, with Lyra's energy flowing gently around him. Elias knew that the future was full of challenges, but also opportunities. They had faced the impossible and emerged victorious, proving that human courage and ingenuity could shine even in alien worlds. He took Lyra's hand, feeling the steady pulse of her energy, and knew that together they could face anything. The galaxy, vast and unpredictable, was no longer a source of fear, a canvas for human potential in partnership with those willing to embrace it. And as they stood there, bound by trust, courage, and understanding, Elias Ward knew that their story was just beginning, a story that would inspire both humans and Zetherians alike, a testament to the extraordinary strength of the human spirit in the face of the unknown. In the weeks that followed, their bond only deepened. Elias continued to navigate the palace with skill, uncovering hidden paths, anticipating threats, guiding diplomatic efforts with insight that astonished both humans and Zetherians. Lyra, equally formidable, trusted his judgment implicitly, and together they became an inseparable team. The faction that had once opposed them was now contained, and those who doubted the human captain's abilities had begun to acknowledge his extraordinary perception and strategic mind. Stories of his deeds spread quietly through the palace and beyond, earning him respect that transcended species and politics. Elias reflected on how his journey had transformed him. Blindness, once a limitation, had taught him to perceive in ways others could not. Courage, empathy, and adaptability had become his greatest tools. And through partnership with Lyra, he had discovered that strength was not only personal, but shared a bond that could withstand danger, intrigue, and the unknown vastness of the galaxy. On a final night before another celebration of unity, Elias and Lyra stood together, sensing the energy of the city below and the lives of countless beings intertwined with their own. "We have faced much," Elias said softly, "Anne.